Boundary 1. Stop rewarding silence with extra effort, because every time you chase their distance, you teach them that distance has no cost. And I know that is painful to hear, because you don't call it chasing, you call it caring. You call it communication. You call it being mature. You tell yourself, if I just explain how I feel, if I just say it clearly, if I just show them I'm not leaving, they will finally soften. But in an avoidant dynamic, your extra effort doesn't create closeness, it creates comfort for them and chaos for you. Because silence is not neutral when you're emotionally invested. Silence becomes a test your nervous system takes every day. Silence becomes a mirror where you start judging your worth. Silence becomes a space where your mind replays every conversation, looking for what you did wrong. And when they stay silent, your body goes into panic, not because you're weak, but because your brain is wired to seek safety, and uncertainty feels unsafe. So you do what humans do when they feel unsafe, you try to regain control. You send the second message. You ask, are you okay? You say, did I do something? You soften your tone. You apologize for your feelings. You offer more reassurance. You try to be lighter, easier, more fun, so you don't scare them. You become a version of yourself that is constantly adjusting to their absence, and you call it love. But here is the brutal truth. Every time you do that, you reward silence. You reward distance. You reward withdrawal. Because they learn, when I pull away, she comes closer. When I go cold, she gets warmer. When I disappear, she works harder. And what that teaches their nervous system is terrifying. It teaches them they never have to build emotional maturity, because your effort will keep the connection alive for them. And you might say, but what if they're overwhelmed? What if they're stressed? What if they need space? Listen, space is not the issue. The issue is disrespectful silence that keeps you in anxiety. The issue is disappearing without communication. The issue is pulling away and letting you do all the emotional labor to hold the relationship together. Because if someone cares, they can take space while still treating you with basic respect. They can say, I'm overwhelmed. I need a day. I'll talk tomorrow. They can say, I'm not feeling great. I need some quiet. I'm not going anywhere. They can communicate like an adult. Silence without context is not space, it's avoidance. And avoidance becomes power when you respond by chasing. So this boundary is not about punishing them. It is about protecting you. It is about refusing to let their silence turn you into someone you don't recognize. Because the most damaging part of chasing is not that it doesn't work, it's that it makes you abandon yourself. You stop focusing on your life. You stop sleeping well. You stop feeling grounded. You stop trusting your instincts. You start living in reaction, and reaction is where your power leaks. Stopping the reward means when they go quiet, you don't fill the void. You don't send paragraphs. You don't chase clarity from someone who is choosing confusion. You don't beg for a response. You don't perform calmness while you're breaking inside. You step back, and you let reality speak. And I know your heart will panic, because part of you believes that if you don't reach out, you'll lose them. But hear this clearly. If the only way to keep someone is to chase them, you were never holding love, you were holding a pattern. And patterns that require you to chase and not love, they are addiction. They keep you attached to intermittent reward, the occasional warmth, the occasional reply, the occasional moment where you feel chosen again. That's why it's so hard to stop. Your nervous system is hooked on relief. Silence hurts, then a message arrives, and you feel relief, and your brain learns, chase the silence to get the relief. And you call it connection, but it's actually a cycle. So the boundary is you stepping out of the cycle, even when your body wants to stay in it. You let the silence sit. You let the discomfort rise. You breathe through it. You return to your life. You ground yourself in routines. You talk to friends. You go outside. You do what you need to do to remind your nervous system, my safety is not in their reply. Because when you stop rewarding silence, two things happen. One, you get your power back. You stop being controlled by their timing. You stop being controlled by their moods. You stop being controlled by the unpredictability. You become steady, and steadiness is strength. Two, they are forced to face consequence. Not consequence like punishment, consequence like reality. The reality that if they withdraw, they may lose access to you. The reality that they don't get to disappear and return to full warmth like nothing happened. The reality that you are not an endless emotional resource, and this is where an avoidant either steps up or steps out. If they have capacity, if they truly value you, they will adjust. They will communicate. They will show effort. They will meet you with more consistency, because they feel the shift in the dynamic. They feel that you are no longer chasing, and it wakes them up. Not with drama, but with clarity. If they don't have capacity, they will fade. They will stay silent. They will keep testing your boundary. they will wait for you to break. And if you hold your line, they will step out, because they were only comfortable when your self-respect was flexible. And I know that outcome hurts, because you wanted them to choose you. But the truth is, you are choosing you. And that is the only choice that guarantees you stop suffering. Because you deserve love that doesn't require you to chase basic decency. You deserve love that doesn't punish you with silence. You deserve love where communication is normal, not something you beg for. And when you stop rewarding silence with extra effort, you stop training someone to treat you casually. You stop handing your heart to someone who only reaches for it when it's convenient. So let the silence do its job. Let it reveal. Let it show you what they will do when you don't rescue the connection. Let it show you whether they can meet you with respect. And while it reveals, you return to your own life, because the greatest boundary is not what you say, it's what you stop doing. You stop chasing, you stop fixing, you stop proving, and you finally become the kind of woman whose peace is not dependent on someone else's willingness to show up. Boundary 2. Require clarity. No more vague situationships, because vague is where your heart slowly bleeds out without anyone taking responsibility. Vague is where they get closeness without commitment, comfort without consistency, access without accountability. Vague is where you keep investing emotionally while telling yourself you're being patient. But deep down you know you're just waiting for someone to decide if you're worth choosing. And I need you to be honest about what vague has done to you. Vague has kept you checking your phone like it's a verdict. Vague has made you second, guess your needs. Vague has made you shrink your standards so you don't scare them. Vague has made you accept crumbs and call it progress. Vague has made you afraid to ask simple questions because you're terrified the answer will confirm what you already feel, that they like you, but not enough to show up fully. And avoidants often love vague, not because they're evil, but because vague feels safe to their nervous system. Vague means they can enjoy connection without feeling trapped. Vague means they can keep the door open without walking through it. Vague means they can pull away without being wrong, because nothing was defined. Vague means they can say, I never promised anything, and hide behind technicalities instead of facing the human truth that you still got hurt. So when you require clarity, you're not being demanding. You're being emotionally responsible. You're refusing to build a relationship in fog. You're refusing to attach your heart to a question mark, because question marks don't hold you when you're anxious. Question marks don't protect you when you're vulnerable. Question marks don't give you the safety that love needs to grow. Clarity is not a label for social media. Clarity is not rushing. Clarity is emotional safety. Clarity is knowing what you're building. Clarity is knowing whether you're dating with intention or just drifting. Clarity is knowing whether you are someone's priority or someone's convenience. And the reason this boundary makes avoidance either step up or step out is because it forces choice. It forces them to leave the comfortable middle, where they get the benefits of you without the responsibility of you. It forces them to either claim the connection or lose access to it, because you stop participating in a dynamic where your heart is always on hold. Now, requiring clarity doesn't mean you interrogate them. It doesn't mean you pressure. It doesn't mean you demand commitment on day 3. It means you speak your needs simply and calmly, and you don't negotiate them down. You say, I like you, and I'm looking for something real. I'm not available for something undefined. If we're building, let's build. If you're not in that place, I respect it, but I'll step back. That is clarity. And here's what you don't do. You don't add 10 paragraphs to soften it. You don't apologize for it. You don't say, but it's okay if not. You don't say, I don't want to be a burden. You don't say, I'm sorry for asking. Because the moment you apologize for your needs, you teach them your needs are optional. You teach them your standards are negotiable. You teach them that if they go vague, you'll retreat into smallness. So you state it, and you let it land. And the reason this boundary is so emotional is because it threatens the part of you that fears loss. The part of you that says, if I asked for clarity, they'll leave. And maybe they will. But listen to me, if the price of keeping someone is staying vague, you are paying with your peace. You are paying with your dignity. You are paying with your time. And time is the one thing you can't get back. You were not born to be someone's almost. You were not born to be someone's maybe. You were not born to be someone's option. So requiring clarity means you stop living like you have to earn the right to be chosen. You stop auditioning. You stop performing cool. You stop pretending you're okay with less than you want. You stop accepting the emotional crumbs of a situationship while your heart keeps hoping it will turn into a relationship. Because hope in a vague dynamic is dangerous. Hope makes you stay. Hope makes you interpret small things as big things. Hope makes you turn late night affection into daytime commitment. Hope makes you rewrite their absence as they're just busy. Hope makes you keep your schedule open for someone who doesn't schedule you. So the boundary is not just what you say, it's what you stop tolerating. You stop tolerating inconsistent communication paired with intense chemistry. You stop tolerating, I'm not ready, paired with, but I don't want to lose you. You stop tolerating being kept in limbo. You stop tolerating half-effort disguised as taking it slow, because taking it slow can be healthy. Taking it unclear is not. And here is the truth. Someone who is genuinely into you will not punish you for asking what you are building. They will not call you needy for wanting clarity. They will not make you feel ashamed for wanting commitment. They may not be ready, but they will be honest. They will respect you. They will either step into the relationship with intention, or they will step out with integrity. The avoidant who wants access without responsibility will do something else. They will dodge. They will deflect. They will say, why are you making this serious? They will say, can't we just go with the flow? They will say, labels ruin things. They will say, you're pressuring me. And if you fold under that, you're back in vague, back in waiting, back in the fog where your heart is always reaching for solid ground. So you don't fold. You stay warm but firm. You stay kind but clear. You don't argue. You don't convince. You don't plead. You simply hold the boundary. You say, I understand, and I'm not available for that. And then you back it with action. You step back. You reduce access. You stop giving relationship energy to a non-relationship. And this is where the magic happens, not manipulation, but revelation. Because now their behavior tells the truth. If they step up, they start making plans, communicating, showing consistency, and bringing clarity. If they step out, they disappear, because the fog was the only place they could keep you. And either way you win, because you stop losing yourself in uncertainty. You stop being the person who waits. You stop being the person who settles for undefined. You become the person who says, my heart is valuable, and it will not live in a question mark. So require clarity. Not because you're desperate, but because you're done donating your time to vagueness. Not because you want to control them, but because you want to protect yourself. Because the relationship that is meant for you will not be built in fog. It will be built in truth, and truth is the only foundation that can hold your heart without breaking it. Boundary 3. Consistency earns access, not chemistry, because chemistry can light you up while slowly burning you down. Chemistry is powerful. It feels like destiny. It feels like magnetism. It feels like this person sees me, wants me, gets me, and when you've been craving connection, chemistry can feel like proof. But chemistry is not proof of safety. Chemistry is not proof of character. Chemistry is not proof that someone can love you well. Chemistry is only proof that your bodies and your emotions know how to react to each other, and reaction is not the same as relationship. And this is where avoidant dynamics trap good people, because avoidance can be intense in bursts. They can be incredibly present for a moment, incredibly charming, incredibly affectionate, incredibly attentive, and it makes you think, this is it, this is the real them, and maybe it is a real part of them. But then the burst ends, then the distance returns, then the silence returns, then you're left holding the memory of the chemistry like a drug, trying to get back to that feeling, trying to win the warmth again. So you start giving access based on emotion, not evidence. You start giving intimacy because the moment feels good. You start giving loyalty because the spark feels rare. You start giving understanding because you remember how sweet they can be. You start giving chances because the chemistry makes you believe the potential is worth the pain. But here is the boundary that changes the entire game. You do not give full access to someone who has not shown consistency. Access means your time. Access means your body. Access means your emotional availability. Access means your deepest stories, your vulnerabilities, your softness, your forgiveness. Access means the privileges of being close to you. And too many people hand out those privileges because someone made them feel something, without checking if that person can hold them in something. Because chemistry without consistency creates addiction. It creates a cycle where you live for the highs and survive the lows. It trains your nervous system to accept instability as normal. It makes you grateful for crumbs because you remember the feast. And that is not love, that is conditioning. Consistency is what turns attraction into trust. Consistency is what turns liking into security. Consistency is what allows your nervous system to relax. Consistency is the repeated choice, the repeated effort, the repeated presence, the repeated follow through that says, you can rely on me. And without that, chemistry is just fire. Beautiful, dangerous and unpredictable. So when you say consistency earns access, you're saying, I will not let my body and my heart outrun reality. I will not let one intense week buy someone months of patience. I will not let sweet words earn what only consistent behavior deserves. I will not give relationship privileges to someone who shows up like a visitor. This boundary looks like pacing yourself, even when you feel tempted to rush. It looks like enjoying the connection, but not building a fantasy. It looks like letting time reveal patterns. It looks like staying warm, but not overly available. It looks like not cancelling your life for someone who hasn't proven they respect your time. It looks like not making them your emotional home when they haven't made you theirs. Because the truth is, avoidants often take what you give. Not always consciously, not always maliciously, but if you offer full access while they offer half effort, the dynamic forms. You become the giver, they become the decider. You become the one trying, they become the one evaluating. You become the one holding the relationship, they become the one benefiting from it. And chemistry makes you tolerate that, because chemistry makes you fear losing them. So you keep giving, hoping your giving will inspire them to give back. But people don't rise because you give more. People rise because they value what they might lose. And that's why consistency must earn access, not as a punishment, as a structure, as a standard, as a way of protecting your heart from being rented out to someone who doesn't know how to stay. Now let's be honest about what happens when you do this. It feels scary at first, because you might think, if I don't give full access, they'll leave. If I don't offer my full warmth, they'll feel rejected. If I don't prove I'm all in, they won't choose me. But this is where your maturity shows up. Because someone who only chooses you when you give them everything for free is not choosing you. They're choosing convenience. A person who values you will respect pacing. A person who values you will respect your standards. A person who values you will not demand full access while offering half presence. They will meet you. And here's what avoidants often do when they sense you are not easily accessible. They test. They pull away to see if you chase. They go quiet to see if you panic. They become inconsistent to see if you lower your standards. And if you pass those tests by chasing, you teach them, my boundaries are flexible. My self-respect is negotiable. My access can be regained with minimal effort. But if you hold the boundary, something powerful happens. They either step up, because the connection matters, or they step out, because the only way they were comfortable was when you were over-giving. And either way you win, because you stop giving your best to someone who is not meeting you with their best. Consistency earns access also means you stop forgiving patterns as if they were accidents. One cancellation might be life. 5 cancellations is a pattern. One slow reply might be busy. Weeks of inconsistency is a pattern. One moment of distance might be overwhelm. A repeated cycle of closeness and withdrawal is a pattern, and patterns are the language of reality. So you become a woman who listens to reality. You don't punish them for a bad day. You don't overreact, but you also don't build a relationship on hope. You require that the overall pattern moves toward consistency, not away from it. And the emotional truth is this: you are not withholding love, you are protecting love. You are not being cold, you are being wise. You are not playing games, you are refusing to be played by the chemistry of an unstable dynamic. Because the right person will not be scared off by your standards. They will be drawn to them. They will feel safer with you because you are steady. They will feel more respect for you because you respect yourself. And the avoidant who can grow will grow. The avoidant who cannot will leave. And if they leave, let that be your proof that the chemistry was not the promise, the consistency was. Let that be your lesson that attraction is common, but a steady love is rare. And you deserve the rare thing, the love that shows up in daylight, the love that follows through. The love that doesn't make you chase the feeling of being chosen, because it chooses you consistently. Boundary 4, space is allowed, disappearing is not. Because there is a difference between a healthy pause and an unhealthy punishment. There is a difference between someone taking a breath and someone taking your peace. There is a difference between a person who needs time to regulate and a person who uses silence to avoid responsibility. And if you've ever loved an avoidant, you know how easy it is to confuse the two. Because they will call it space, they will call it needing time, they will call it being overwhelmed. And sometimes that's true. But what your body feels is something else. Your body feels abandonment. Your body feels anxiety. Your body feels like you are being left in the dark with a heart that doesn't know where to go. So, this boundary is not about controlling someone's need for solitude. It's about protecting your dignity from being treated like an option. Space can be healthy. Space can be mature. Space can be a sign that someone is trying not to react impulsively. Space can be a sign that someone is taking responsibility for their emotional state. But disappearing is not space. Disappearing is a lack of communication. Disappearing is cutting off connection without warning. Disappearing is making you guess. Disappearing is leaving you to carry all the uncertainty alone. And the reason this matters so much is because your nervous system cannot build trust in a relationship where you are regularly left without a simple sentence. A simple sentence, not a novel, not a long explanation. Just a sentence that says, "I'm overwhelmed, I need a day, I'm not going anywhere, I'll talk tomorrow." That is what emotionally mature adults do. They don't vanish, they communicate. They protect the bond even while they take space. So when you set this boundary, you are not asking for constant contact. You are asking for basic respect. You are asking to not be emotionally blindsided. You are asking to not be punished with silence every time the relationship becomes real. You are asking to not be left in a place where your mind has to become a detective and your heart has to become a beggar. Because disappearing creates a power dynamic. It makes the avoidant the decider and you the waiter. They decide when connection happens and you wait for permission. They decide when you're worthy of a reply and you sit there wondering what you did wrong. And if you respond by chasing, apologizing, over-explaining, you strengthen that dynamic. You teach them that disappearing works. So the boundary is calm, clear and simple. If you need space, communicate it. If you need time, tell me. If you feel overwhelmed, give me a heads up. And if you cannot do that, then I cannot do this. That is not cruelty. That is self-respect. Now, your heart might be afraid to say this because you think they will feel pressured. But pressure is not the same as standards. Pressure is demanding they be someone they're not. Standards are deciding what you will participate in. You are not saying, you must never need space. You are saying if you need space, take it like an adult, not like someone who leaves people bleeding. Because here is the truth. Disappearing is emotionally immature. It may come from fear. It may come from past wounds. It may come from their attachment style. But regardless of the reason, it creates harm. And you are allowed to refuse harm, even when you understand it. So what does this boundary look like in real life? It looks like you not sending the second message when they go quiet. It looks like you not chasing them into silence. It looks like you not performing calm while your heart is breaking. It looks like you stepping back and letting the silence reveal what it is. And then, when they return, you don't pretend it didn't happen. You don't punish them with anger, but you also don't reward them with full warmth. You address it once, calmly. "I'm not available for disappearing. If you need space, tell me, and we can handle it. But going silent doesn't work for me." And then you watch what they do next. Because the next part is what makes this boundary powerful. You stop accepting space as a word and you start requiring space to be communicated respectfully. You stop letting them vanish and call it self-care. You stop letting them disappear and call it boundaries. Because real boundaries are communicated. Real boundaries protect both people. Real boundaries don't leave someone in panic. If they truly care, they will adjust. They may not be perfect immediately, but they will try. They will start giving you heads-ups. They will start saying, "I need a day." They will start checking in briefly. They will start respecting the bond even in distance. Because they realize you are not asking for control, you are asking for safety. If they don't care, or if they don't have capacity, they will resist. They will act like you're asking for too much. They will call you needy. They will say, "I can't deal with this." They will try to make you feel guilty for wanting a basic level of communication. And that reaction tells you everything you need to know. They want the freedom to disappear, not the freedom to be healthy. And here is the emotional part. Setting this boundary will trigger your fear of losing them. Because you have been trained by the dynamic to believe that if you ask for anything, they will vanish. But that is exactly why you need the boundary. Because a relationship where you have to silence yourself to keep someone is not a relationship. It is emotional captivity. So you practice being okay with the outcome. Not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself too. You practice being okay with the possibility that they step out. Because if they step out when you ask for basic respect, they were not stepping into your life with love anyway. They were stepping into your life on their terms only. And I want you to feel the freedom in that. Because the moment you stop being afraid of them leaving, you stop being controlled by their leaving. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop monitoring your tone. You stop overthinking your messages. You stop shrinking your needs. You become steady. You become calm. You become the kind of person who can love without begging. Space is allowed. Absolutely. Healthy relationships breathe. Healthy people need time. But disappearing is not love. Disappearing is not maturity. Disappearing is not a relationship skill. Disappearing is avoidance, and avoidance has a cost. It costs trust, it costs safety, it costs your peace. So you set the boundary not to make them regret, not to make them chase, not to play a game, but to protect your heart from being thrown into panic. You choose a love where space comes with communication. You choose a love where hard moments are handled with honesty. You choose a love where you don't have to guess. Because the right person will never use silence to punish you. The right person will never leave you in the dark and call it space. The right person will take a breath and still hold your hand. And the moment you require that, you stop being someone who waits in silence and you become someone who is met with respect or not met at all. And both outcomes lead you to peace.